From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good Friday morning and welcome to Montana This Morning. It's 5:30. I'm Victoria Hill. Thank you for starting your weekend with us.
Yeah, and a pleasant weekend to get started for sure. I'm Ed McIntosh with a look at the First Interstate iCam this morning as we're off to a pretty pleasant start at 56 degrees, just a little bit of a north breeze, and the day is really shaping up to be pretty pleasant. Yesterday we hit a high of 84, right close to the 30-year average, but the overnight hours we started off with showers in the area. We picked up 0.08 of an inch between like midnight and 4 a.m. yesterday. But the wind gusts yesterday afternoon picked up to about 40 miles an hour as another disturbance moved across the area. This morning we're starting off with good air quality across Montana, and temperatures are starting off in the 40s and 50s pretty much across the board, generally with a clearing sky with last night's storm system well off into the Dakotas over towards Minnesota. Here in southern Montana and northern Wyoming, looking at a lot of 40s and 50s to get started here today, but the afternoon promises to be quiet. Temperatures are going to be warming up with plenty of sunshine, a light wind by the time we're later in the day. We'll talk more about the outlook for the rest of the weekend, which is much different day by day, coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, like the roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ed. I'll get to the news.
Thanks.
We begin with national news this morning. The teen accused of shooting 3 people during a Wisconsin protest and killing 2 has been charged with several counts, including a first-degree reckless homicide and use of a dangerous weapon. Authorities say 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse committed the crimes Tuesday night at a protest over the police shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha. He's scheduled to appear in an Illinois courtroom today and faces extradition to Wisconsin. A lawyer for Rittenhouse said he found himself with his life threatened and he had the right to protect himself with self-defense, and now he finds himself accused of murder. As tensions rise from the Kenosha shooting, tens of thousands of people are expected to march for criminal justice reform in D.C. today. CNN's John Lawrence brings us the latest.
August 28, 1963 was a landmark day in U.S. history with the Civil Rights March on Washington and the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr.'s historic I Have a Dream speech. In front of a crowd of more than 200,000, King said he hoped people would be judged by character, not skin color. And to honor that day's 57th anniversary, another march in the nation's capital.
We're here to make history again.
We need change, and last time they had the march, something came out of it. So we're going to see what we can do this weekend.
The 2020 March on Washington, organized by the Reverend Al Sharpton's National Action Network, the NAACP, and others, is called Get Your Knee Off Our Necks.
Everybody's lives matter, but everybody's lives don't matter until Black lives matter.
I think for the moderate whites, it's time that everybody stands up.
As tens of thousands are expected to march in Washington, protests and tensions continue following this week's police shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And just like that day in 1963, a main message at this march is to judge people by character, not skin color.
People don't stop getting shot when the president is a Democrat. This is not a partisan issue. We're angry.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
The march starts at 11 o'clock this morning at the Lincoln Memorial and will go to the MLK Memorial. Attendees are required to wear masks. President Trump is now his party's official nominee for a second term in the White House. During the 4th day of the Republican National Convention, Trump accepted the nomination from the White House. His daughter Ivanka introduced him to a live audience sitting on the White House lawn. The president said he profoundly accepts the nomination with a heart full of gratitude and boundless optimism. Here in Montana, a Three Forks man is facing criminal mischief charges for setting some flags supporting President Trump on fire. Earlier this month, Julia O'Rourke looked out her window to find something smoldering in her front yard. She said her security camera caught someone stumbling up to the front porch of her family's home, pulling the flags down and burning them. The Gallatin County Sheriff was able to identify a suspect from the video, and he's been cited. O'Rourke says she was more concerned with safety than politics.
I felt violated. I felt that my kids and my life and my husband's life were in danger. It could have easily burned our house down. There was a fire ban at the time of the burning, and as close as it was to the house, it was very eerie.
The Gallatin County Sheriff says the case could result in more charges as new details come to light. On Montana's campaign trail, Democrat Governor hopeful Mike Cooney unveiled his plan to boost public education in Montana. In Missoula, Cooney called for increased state spending on public schools, preschool, and state colleges. Cooney said Montana's system of public schools deserves more support during the coronavirus pandemic to ensure it has enough funds to carry out its education duties while keeping students and staff safe. His plan would freeze college tuition, increase teacher pay, and expand a career and technical education.
My wife and I sent our 3 kids to public schools in Montana. My son is a teacher in the public school system. And I know how important it is that our public education system is here in Montana because I've lived it.
Cooney is running against Republican Greg Gianforte in the governor's race. Continuing our coverage today, ballots will be mailed out to Billings voters asking for additional funding for the city's police, fire, and 911 services. Police Chief Rich St. John said he was hoping for a levy that could have helped the department add new positions to address violent crime and homelessness. But when the COVID-19 pandemic brought financial strain, they decided to ask for less, opting instead to maintain what they have now. The fire department says without the resources they need, their response times could dip.
We're assuming we can get there within 4 minutes. That's the goal and the standard. But if you have one truck out in one area, another engine has to come in and cover other calls in that area, you can kind of see the domino effect that we experience. Therefore, everybody's response times are delayed.
The last time Billings voters passed a public safety levy was in 2004. In state news, Montanans relying on unemployment benefits will begin seeing a $400 weekly boost. The money comes from the Lost Wages Assistance Program, which was created by an executive order from President Trump as Congress continues to disagree on a new coronavirus stimulus package. Montana is one of a handful of states to request the benefits from the federal government. Governor Steve Bullock says the state took advantage of the program because many Montanans can't afford to wait for Congress to agree.
We didn't wait to act because we know that these are greatly needed benefits that put money in the pockets of Montanans and ensure that they can continue taking care of their families during this difficult time.
At a Thursday press conference, Governor Steve Bullock also urged any asymptomatic contacts of people with COVID-19 to get tested, despite new guidance from the CDC saying the opposite. In campus news, UM President Seth Bodnar gave his annual State of the University address on Thursday. In a pre-recorded video, Bodnar said the country is facing very challenging times, but believes universities like UM can be leaders of change moving forward.
We see economic growth that has, unfortunately, left many behind. We see laid bare the damaging impact of systemic racism in our institutions. But it is in times of great challenge that opportunity for hopeful renewal emerges. And at the heart of the renewal of this country must be public institutions like the University of Montana. Why? Because at its core, UM exists to foster inclusive prosperity.
Bodnar said UM is making progress in areas such as student recruitment and retention, but says the pandemic will have financial impacts. Also making headlines this morning, Hurricane Laura is now a tropical depression as it moves through Arkansas and continues to travel inland. Yesterday, it hit Louisiana as a powerful Category 4 storm, killing at least 6 people and leaving behind unimaginable destruction. The governor called it the most powerful storm to ever hit the state. CBS's Laura Podesta has more.
She wanted to go like Harvard or Ivy League. 14-year-old Cynthia Miller was the first confirmed fatality from Hurricane Laura, killed by a tree that fell on her family's home. There was rain, wind everywhere. It sounded huge. We went right out the storm in our parents' room. Everyone was sitting in there, and then the tree, it came down. Laura came ashore in the middle of the night, packing 150-mile-per-hour winds. By Thursday morning, the widespread destruction was in clear view. Buildings turned to rubble, rail cars knocked over, and massive amounts of flooding. In Westlake, Louisiana, thick toxic smoke billowed from a plant that makes pool chemicals.
We did not sustain and suffer the absolute catastrophic damage that we thought was likely based on the forecast we had last night. But we have sustained a tremendous amount of damage.
Residents in Lake Charles who didn't evacuate say they were caught off guard by Laura's power.
I just didn't think the wind and the strength of it would be that bad.
There was 4 of us. It was like a jigsaw puzzle in this closet. We were on top of each other, just holding each other, crying.
Gladys Smith did leave her home ahead of the storm. Now she's wondering what's left.
Everybody's concerned, not knowing what we're going to go back to, because right now we can't really get back into town.
President Trump says he'll visit Louisiana and Texas this weekend. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
And Laura remained a hurricane for 11 hours after first making landfall. Health experts are forecasting thousands more lives will be lost to COVID-19. As we stand now, more than 180,000 people have died from the coronavirus in the U.S. By September 19th, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention believes more than 200,000 people will have died after contracting the virus. That's thousands more deaths than the CDC projected just last week. Thank you so much for starting your Friday with us here on Montana This Morning. Coming up, you won't believe how much money people literally flush down the toilet in a lifetime. We'll bring you the numbers. It's 58 degrees in downtown Billings and the time is now 5:41. Stay with us as forecast is coming up after the break.